Hello everyone, I'm Kevin, otherwise known as Forum BX257, here to bring you another 1980s and 90s G.I. Joe toy review. And today I'm going to be taking a look at the G.I. Joe's hand-to-hand combat expert, the 1990 Captain Grid-Iron. Now, whoa, before you click off of this video, I understand that there's a lot of collectors out there who really don't like Captain Grid-Iron. His appearance is, as you can see, very football inspired, and the colors are, well, not very military-like. But I swear I'll make this video very interesting because I think not only is the football inspired look kind of fitting for him, I think that he is a very interesting toy on top of that. Now, he makes his first comic book appearance in the Old Marvel comic run of G.I. Joe in issue number 130, and makes his first animated appearance in the Deke animated 1990 first season episode titled United We Stand. Before I get into the figure, I might as well explain what his name means, Grid-Iron, as some people might not be familiar with the football term. A gridiron means the football field, as it's marked with grid lines on the surface like a griddle. Basically, he's named after a waffle pan. And I realize that's not doing him any favors. And now to take a look at Captain Pigskin's accessories, starting off with his helmet. The clearly football-inspired helmet has a lower face guard, as well as a visor which you can pull up just a little bit. He comes with a pistol. It's a rather large pistol. Doesn't seem to be based on a real-world pistol that I know of. It's also kind of curious to note that this thing also has a kind of a large either suppressor or some type of a compensator on the front. Kind of reminds me of the pistol that came with the 1987 Mercer figure. Next, he comes with a machine gun with 4 missiles. All 4 barrel-mounted missiles are removable. They're just held in by 2 pegs, making this very secure. In fact, because there's no magazine and this thing has such a huge scope on the top, you would think that this would be some type of a missile launcher rather than a machine gun, but that's what the contents list on the card says this thing is. Here it is with all 4 missiles removed. You can see that the barrel has a secondary handle on here. It's very far apart, making it very awkward for the action figure to actually hold that, but he can. Mounted on Captain Touchdown's leg, as well as the back of his backpack, are 3 football grenades, which are removable, and have little handles that are fairly easy for the figure to hold on to. Now, even I'll admit that these accessories are really what pushes Captain Goalpost from a football-themed army figure into more of a parody. However, I will remind you that fully rounded grenades are informally called baseball grenades, so this isn't really that much of a stretch. Captain Quarterback also came with a removable backpack, which I'll admit is kind of plain. Honestly, it's really only there for that peg to hold that 3rd football grenade. And last but not least, Captain Kickoff comes with a pair of blocking pads. These are just clipped onto his arms. You can clip them close to his elbows or even up high. I'm not really sure where they're supposed to go because the artwork doesn't actually show these properly. And since there's no artwork to show exactly how this goes onto the figure, nor is there any instructions, I'm not even sure whether these tapered blocking pads are supposed to go upwards or downwards. Free of his football-inspired accessories, Captain Linebacker actually looks like a fairly decent army figure. Okay, just ignore his yellow pants and just take a look at the figure like that. Imagine the figure came with, I don't know, brown pants or town pants, or maybe a dark green to match his flak jacket. If you can imagine that, he would look like a great figure. But unfortunately, yeah, he does come with those yellow pants. But look at all the other stuff he comes with. The army greens, the camo on his arms, which are actually matching on his gaiters here. Now, I'll admit I don't really like this, this sort of bright gray that he's wearing here, but that's not so different from any other 1990s figure. And he does have some rather aggressive treads on his boots here. And that gray is sort of matched with the accessories that he comes with, as well as his gun belt here. He also has a really nice face. One very interesting detail are his captain bars, but only on one side of his epaulettes here. He doesn't have one on the other side. I'm not sure if that's like a molding error on my figure, or if it's only supposed to come on one side. It's rather odd. I thought that those are usually symmetrical on most Army uniforms, but I guess not. NFL Super Pro here isn't even the very first sports-oriented or even the very first football-inspired G.I. Joe. First, in 1985, we have Bazooka with his football-inspired jersey. Then in 1987, we have Red Dog, who according to his file card is a fictitious football player. But also in 1987, we have William the Refrigerator Perry, an actual football player made in G.I. Joe form. And then in 1991, we have Tracker here, who I'm not really sure which sport he's supposed to represent, but that is definitely a sports shirt, as well as sporty sneakers and socks. In my opinion, Captain Season Pass here suffers from over-marketing. Now, he's supposed to be a hand-to-hand combat expert, and yet he comes with all of these accessories, very heavy weapons. I mean, hand-to-hand combat expert could be advanced infantry all the way up to martial arts commando, and yet he doesn't seem to have anything like that on his file card. In fact, if you look at his file card, not only does he have a high grade, meaning that he should really only be second in command to maybe like General Hawk, but if you look down here, it says he's trying to emulate John Wayne. And what was his nickname? The Duke. And who else in the G.I. Joe roster has that name? Well, the other proper second in command to the G.I. Joe forces, Duke himself. So I think that that's what Hasbro was trying to market this guy as. You have this all-American football sports thing going on, which appeals to that crowd. You have great big accessories, which appeals to that crowd. And then you have his captaincy and his education. And of course, he is supposed to be like the second in command. Basically, the field officer, the guy who does things. So this guy was supposed to be a brand new Duke, but it looks like the marketing just threw too many things at the wall, and this guy kind of suffers for that. Kids just wanted a good old simple Army dude back, and well, we got that in 1992 with a new Duke. Thank goodness. Probably another intentional parallel between the two is that he intentionally turns down a promotion just like Duke famously does. According to the file card, he denies going to the Army War College, which is an appointment which actually would have bumped up his rank up to major. It doesn't actually say that here, but that's exactly what the War College would do. So by staying at captain, he stays at the field infantry level. So just who is the opposite number on the Cobra side for Captain 2-Minute Warning here? Like I said, he is kind of split three ways. For his hand-to-hand combat expert and his, well, football theme, I would say that his good opposite number would be a 1988 Road Pig, who also has a lot of very hand-to-hand combat stuff, well, proper hand-to-hand combat stuff, I would say, and also like almost like a football-themed stuff going on his shoulder pads here. But as far as his being a highly educated captain and possibly the second in command, the G.I. Joe forces, I would have to say that his rival might be a Crimson Guard, like this Crimson Guard Immortal from 1991. However, if you want to ignore his hand-to-hand combat experience and his grade, well, just look at his accessories. They're very Grenadier-like. So another opposite number could be like a 1989 Frag Viper, or even a 1989 Heat Viper. Now, if you're wondering how I've integrated Captain Wide Receiver into my collection, well, I don't use him as any type of second-in-command, or even as a Grenadier. I have actually used him as a driver and pilot almost from the get-go of his inclusion into my collection. Stripped of his accessories, I've had him as my driver for my 1990 Hammer vehicle, but now that I've gotten a 1990 General, which came with a Locust in his exact colors, I've made him a pilot for that small helicopter. They look great together. The US Army and American football have a long history together, and the West Point football team, probably the Black Knights, mentioned on his file card, isn't just some minor extracurricular club in the academy, but a legit major football athletic team. Although his green and yellow color scheme makes him look like a Green Bay Packer. Oh, and anybody complaining about the proportions of this 31-year-old figure can go look at this 2014 update. Awful. It looks like his shirt isn't tucked in and he's wearing leg warmers. I think I prefer the original, thank you. If you're looking for a Captain Yardline on the aftermarket, he isn't quite as popular as the other 1990 figures in the basic range. So his aftermarket value is actually quite low, but he is one of the hardest figures to find complete with all of his parts and in good condition. And by that I mean the figure has a very easily broken crotch. You would think that it would be the pegs on the side of his legs, but no, those are actually rather sturdy. It's always his crotch which I find broken on examples on the aftermarket. And then there's his many accessories. I think he has one of the highest loadouts for any 1990 figure in the basic line. He has a clear visor, very easily lost. Most visors on G.I. Joe figures tend to be lost, especially when they're as thin and as unique as this. Then there's his machine gun, which I almost always call a missile launcher because to me that's what the thing ought to be. As you can see, you're supposed to peg all four of these missiles onto this very thin barrel, and the barrel can actually snap off. There's all three of his grenades, all four of his missiles, and then there's things like his blocking pads, which are also a fairly small multiple item. I mean, they fit on his arms fairly securely, but these things are almost always missing with the figure as well. So that's a lot of stuff that you really do have to look out for. Even though, I honestly, I would try to find this guy with all of his parts. Because to me, just sort of finding each one of these parts just seems like a very expensive endeavor for a figure which doesn't really command a whole lot if you do find him complete just like this. Wide receiver, place kicker, quarterback, defensive lineman, water boy, I guess.